Good morning, everyone. My name is Rick Noda, host here at T3 Talks and founder of T3 Body, where we tighten, tactical, and transition. This is Nurses Week, you guys. Today, I've got my Panickin coffee shirt that I always wear underneath my 511. I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit ahead of time today where that power is. One nice thing about Dempsey over at Panickin, I asked him as a sponsor to say, hey, what can you contribute it? And you've heard in my previous podcast that I own 5 of the same shirt, So what's kind of nice about this is I don't have to think about it. It's always there. Again, a little bit of the busy work, you guys. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button once, twice. I moved it for you. There's a third one right over there to the side there, you guys. Thumbs up and share. Since our last video, we've had a few subscribers add, so I say great job. I really appreciate you guys taking heed to, looking for more subscribers. The more subscribers we have, the way we can keep this podcast going without it coming all out of my pocket and me overdrafting my account. So with Nurses Week, we're building on the May 17th first aid professor coming in, talking about first aid and basic life saving. So if you saw my previous podcast, what we were talking about was not only of the code of awareness, that was what we talked about on Monday. Then on Tuesday, we talked a little bit on how to head front on kind of get ahead of a virus or a head cold. So today, what I just want to kind of touch base a little bit about is touching base on, a typical twisted ankle. I was with my Sunday group Blueprint. You can see right here from the picture, there was one part where I said, off with your head. They were using the rib trainer right there, and it almost looked like they took my head off during that selfie. But we were on wood chips. We're going up and down a playground, and there runs the risk of someone twisting an ankle. Now, Dr. Rice, Rice? What is that? Did someone say Dr. Rice? Most people don't know that Rice, that actual acronym, his name was Dr. Rice. He basically, it just happened to be where you use that actual acronym of, my God, I can't spell rice today. Rest, ice, compress, and elevate. All right. Dr. Rice created that actual acronym because he had told so many people over and over again what to do. He came back a few years later and said that, you know what? Before they used to say that if you use rice, it was going to reduce pain, and that he just says it just helps by putting ice and treating an actual ankle. It helps because what it's doing is it's just decreasing that chronic inflammation. So you notice how when we talked about using Motrin and ibuprofen to be ahead of a inflammation or a head cold, why it still can be effective for us using it for when we twist our ankles. Because inflammation is still inflammation. Either we use something topical like ice to decrease that inflammation, or use something PO or oral so we can decrease that inflammation internally. So you're at the park, Esteban, you're with Armando, you twist your ankle. You look at that, you twist your ankle, and immediately you go to the ground and you grab that ankle.
Ah! Ah! Ah!
And Esteban says, I heard some popping and some cracking. That. So the first thing your body does is, what do? You grab it and you hold it. Well, there's part of rice, right? That's compress. So that's what it is. Second part is you lift it off the ground, right? There's that rest part of it. So you're isolating that area. Now, what we normally recommend is that if you are somewhere where you need to get somewhere, keep that boot on. That's not the time, or keep that shoe on. That's not the time to take your shoe off because you want to see what it looks like. It hurts and it's throbbing, so you know that you hurt something. Now, only thing you want to check for to make sure that bone ain't sticking out. So what you do is you kind of feel around. If it doesn't feel warm or cold, that means there's no blood coming out. You don't feel anything running down your leg. That could be blood. Then you do one of these like little look-sees. All right. You keep the shoe on. You know everything's good. And then you'll stagger to your car or wherever you have your first aid kit. Immediately after you have your first aid kit, that's where you take your scissors, you cut your laces. Just kidding. No. At that point, you can take your shoe off if it does come off. Then you can go ahead and apply ice. This is now where you're doing the assessment. So if it's your ankle or your wrist, the first thing you want to do is you want to try to wiggle those toes.
Wiggle your big toe.
They think that the body's first response to anything is what? Inflammation, right? So that inflammation, if you can't wiggle your toes or bend it as much, you may have a little bit of nerve damage, you may have a little muscle damage, or it may be what they consider a level 3 sprain or a fracture. That's where you may have to go to the hospital. Here's the thing about kids versus adults. When kids twist their ankle, all right, or hurt themselves, their bones are not fully developed. So there's a thing called a green spur fracture, where it's basically your bones are kind of soft, and when a kid twists his ankle, these little like spurs come out of their bones. Very painful. It doesn't necessarily like put someone down. The kid might go home 2 or 3 days later. Mom, my ankle, it still hurts. You go take him to the ER or to the urgent care, and they take, oh my God, he broke his leg. What bad parent you are. You haven't brought him in 3 days. No, it's just one of those things that kids are a little bit different. Adults, if that would happen, your bones are so stiff, it could just snap or just kind of tear itself apart. So that's the only thing about kids. You just gotta, don't overreact, just making sure if the inflammation isn't going down, the pain continues for 2 or 3 days, maybe go back to the ER. The other thing that I like to say is step 1, we go ahead, we're going to rest it. That's literally, you did it all immediately by taking it off the ground. Second, you're going to compress it. You're going to hold that bad boy, and then you're going to elevate it. Ice is as needed, and in between there. Now we go to that same protocol that we did with the cold and flu with inflammation. You start with the first 3 days assessing the pain. Let's say the day you hurt yourself, about a few hours later, your pain went down to an 8. Then you started that first treatment of ibuprofen or Motrin with food. Contact your doctor. From there, after you've taken your ibuprofen 3 times a day with food, on the 3rd day, and you've been icing, you're gonna look at your foot. If your foot feels better and you don't feel that you need the ibuprofen, stop the ibuprofen and continue the rest of the treatments. You're still icing it, you're still compressing it, you're still elevating it. Now, let's say that leg isn't feeling better. Just do what we did with the cold. Increase it for 7 days. So either that protocol is 3 days with ibuprofen and your body's feeling better. Don't be a Superman. Don't be just like the same rebound effect. If there's still some inflammation there, if you're taking the Motrin with food and you're doing it properly, it only reduces some of the side effects necessary, because we're only going to do it for a short period, you guys, not doing it for a long period. Then as soon as you're done with that 7 days, this is where the hard work begins. The treatment that I want everybody to do is the ABCs. If this was my foot and I twisted my ankle, I would go like this with my ankle. A, B, C, D. Why don't I do this? Because that's just one movement. The ankle has rotation. So if you twisted the ankle by doing all of the letters of the alphabet, it allows for you, and you can tell I'm dyslexic because I'm doing different letters and I'm just totally off the Z's. It allows for that full range of motion, you guys. So what's nice during Nurses Week, we're talking about things that you can help with. Now, you notice what I said though, right? Your first aid kit back in your car. How many people of you have that? So when I say our motivation inspires you to be better, take out these tips, you guys, grab your pen and coffee, and for my birthday, make sure you save a life. Rick Noda, host here at T3 Body, where we tighten, tone, and transition. To get a hold of me, check me out at info@t3bodyencinitas.com or on our social networks, Instagram at T3bodyencinitas, Facebook, we're still under that CaliFit WKO, that's our non-for-profit, and check us out and subscribe on our YouTube channel, we are T3 Talks, where our motivation inspires you to be better. See you at my next podcast.